see them?
Nothing over here. You're dead, fucker! Fuck!
Okay.
So guys, holy mackerel. So you know I made a vid the other day saying Starmer had 1.8 million people who hated him? Well, it got worse. Turns out like between 2.7 and 2.8 million people actually hate him. And that really is hate him. That's not your average. I don't really like him because he's not my party, he's the other side and I'll just stay quiet. No, that's I viscerally hate him. Hate that he's in office, do not want him to be in office, and want a new election because he's that much of a scumbag piece of shit totalitarian. And look, quite frankly, full disclosure on my bias, totally agree with him. Let's go over why he's like a total evil scumbag and why literally at this point millions of people hate him. Nearly 3 million people, enough to sign a petition. Let's go over the policies and political maneuvers that have made nearly 3 million people hate him. And like, to put that into perspective, he's only been in power a short time and was only really elected with like 9.7 million votes. The majority of which, like, I think those votes were mostly reactionary to conservative inaction on mass immigration. That reactionary voting was obviously a mistake, given the fact that at the time Starmer was like a unknown quantity. Like, if individuals were like condemning the Conservatives for being too weak on the issues of like immigration, importing Islamic individuals and all that sort of deal, it's very unlikely that they would have chosen Starmer to counter that. Like, he's like a man who's like famously weak on not only crime but like also immigration, and also wrote for like a Marxist column. Like, had they known that like the 2-year prison sentences for like words criticizing like Islam, terrorists and mass immigration were coming down the pike, like, yeah. So, to put it into full context, people didn't know they were like actively voting for a dude who had like represented murderers facing death penalty, rallied to like abolish said death penalty for said murderers, rapists, you know, people pretty much deserving of death penalty, and actively fought for the freedom of movement of suspects facing terrorism charges, suspects that would have targeted like English individuals for political reasons, no actual physical visceral motive besides that. And like, that's obviously compounded by the fact that the words he put people in prison for 2 years were actually completely justified. After the Southport stabber was found to be like a second generation immigrant, but also potentially radicalized by radical Islamist materials he had. Yeah, like the fact that people were upset about that, about the stabbings of like young girls, and like police inaction, and in fact police cracking down on them rather than the Islamic individuals, it just makes the 2-year prison sentences completely and absolutely fucking disgusting. And like, if we're being honest, disgusting is understating it, given like the history we have to recall. Like, to be fair, it's actually completely unforgivable, given that like this isn't the Soviet Union. To say individuals should be jailed for up to 2 years for speech that isn't a direct call to action, isn't a call to crime, isn't a call to violence, like that alone is like untenable. That they're putting people in prison for this arbitrary hate speech or inciting action when there is already action there that the police themselves have sort of incited through inaction is absolutely fucking insane. Like, if we're being totally honest, I'm surprised he hasn't been harassed on the street over this shit. That's like obviously, you know, completely slimily totalitarian and just like the worst possible policy, like policy that's designed to lead to hell as fast as possible. And like, people aren't even harassing him on the street. I've seen him harassed once on the street when he was laying like flowers on the victim's grave, and even that felt like a political gesture. It felt like he was trying to use the deaths politically rather than assuming some sort of responsibility in the role that he had towards his softness on both Islam, Islamic radicals, and mass immigration. Like, it gets even worse when you factor in their own uneven application of their own bullshit rules. Like, hate speeches alone should be fucking gotten rid of. It's fucking nonsense. It's completely nonsense. But even by their own description of it, like, and it's obviously bullshit, they're ignoring like Islamists essentially chanting for the eradication of Jews on the street. Like, make no bones about it. The chant "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free" means from the Jordanian River to the Mediterranean Sea, the state of Israel shall be abolished, and the land shall be governed by Islamists. If you need any historical context for how Islamic majorities play out on their minorities, like just look at the Greek, Assyrian, and Armenian genocides. And you can also like look at references like the Kashmir War, the murders of Christians and Hindus and atheists in like Africa and Bangladesh, the global terrorist attacks in like Russia, Britain, America. Like, an Islamic governed state would, you know, actively seek to implement Sharia and then, you know, kill or convert or genocide or deport all of the Jews in Israel, if they were given the opportunity to take over. And like, that's just a direct call to that. And the fact that their own bullshit totalitarian hate speech laws not only ignore that, which is essentially a call to genocide for Jews, a divine call to genocide given it's in their holy book, but not only are they ignoring that, they're importing as many of them into the UK as possible and they're affording them protections not granted to the native population with hate speech laws and labels of Islamophobia and that sort of thing. And obviously the cultures are completely incompatible. If you have a look at the extrajudicial killings in somewhere like, you know, Afghanistan or Pakistan or wherever, where they just kill gays, kill Jews, pogroms of Jews, like even there's even pogroms of Jews in Europe now. Like it's completely fucking unacceptable. And like, you know, that's not even going into their other cultural practices like child marriage and that sort of shit, which you will find Islamic scholars defending outright pedophilia, which is what we call it in the West. But like, all of that's a problem. And like, it was predictably a problem. Like, Starmer's soft on terrorism, soft on crime background. But because he was an unknown quantity at the time, he got elected. And he seems to have taken this as some sort of, you know, divine will of God, let's say. Yeah, to implement whatever he wants. And it obviously should be said, like, the justification for mass importation of immigrants and stuff is economical gain through the taxation of said immigrants. And that justification has just been proven false by the vast amount of immigrants. Like, there's studies on this. Like, they immediately seek benefits. But, like, if we're being honest, I don't blame them. Like, it has to be hard coming from a dogshit Islamic theocracy or a dictatorship where they have no money or opportunity or skills, right? That being said, you'd expect common sense from them to not turn where they are going into an Islamic theocracy. Like, you would expect them not to implement Sharia law and empower dictators, which have led to that outcome directly. But that in itself begs the question, okay, if it's not for economic gain, through GDP, through taxation of extra population and all that sort of stuff, what is the purpose behind it? And it increasingly looks like the purpose behind it is to create strife in the civilian population in order to implement newer and more totalitarian measures. That's looking like what the deal is. They're looking like they want to install some sort of government similar to China. And it's just getting increasingly more obvious and predictable that that's what they're seeking, given their actions. Like, look at his actions are already directly that. He's putting people in prison for speech, for criticism of the police, for criticism of policy. 2-year prison sentence. It's not the 5 or the 10 of Stalin, but it's fucking getting there. And considering that the individuals in prison are like pretty overrepresented to be Islamic, they can expect to meet a lot of Islamic abuse in the prison system, which is directly similar, let's say, to the criminal elements in gulags in the Soviet Union. Like, it is very similar, disgustingly similar. And like, that's to say nothing of his direct attack on property rights with the inheritance tax, the fact that the government would seize the right to take wealth from individuals passed on to their own offspring, that they would see themselves entitled to that and tax that and seize that from themselves, really makes them look like Soviets and really makes them look like the thieves that they are. And people see that, and it's nearly 3 million people that see that at this point. These policies are incredibly unpopular, and they're not flying under the radar. You can't just push ahead with them. Like, they will eventually be repealed from the populist leaders that get in charge. They're obviously going to repeal these policies. They're going to repeal the stupid fucking Communications Act, which is, very similar to Article 85 under the Soviet Union, that the Soviet Union put people in prison for like 5 and 10 year sentences for criticism of the state. It's obviously going to go the way of that and get fucking repealed as soon as someone sensible is in power. And it's looking like that's not heaps far away. Like, okay, he can not pull a general election, but now he's under pressure. He knows that a significant amount of the population are watching him, are watching his, attempted implementations of totalitarianism. His bosses, who are pushing him to push for this policy, which are very likely the globalists, are also seeing that. They're seeing that it's not flying under the radar, and they're seeing that their plans are pretty much fucking ruined. That they're seeing that, they have to know they're on borrowed time, pushing for this shit, and that free speech is going to win in the end, just like it did in America with Trump.
Come on. There he is.
And not just like it did in America with Trump, but the Velvet Revolutions. The Czechoslovakia, in all the Baltic states, in all the post-communist Baltic states after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1989. All the leftover states that were communist gradually fell. They gradually fell peacefully, by the way, without force, without revolution. The idea that communist totalitarianism is obviously dog shit and leads to starving people, everybody knows that already. That's the way this is headed. They can try and brute force it with, forced prison sentences and all that sort of thing, but that's only going to increase the amount of people that will be likely to sign a petition like this. They can try to use force, but at this point, it's already too late. 3 million people out in the open, openly displaying their displeasure at the policy. Yeah, that's pretty fucking crazy already. It doesn't even matter that the media institutions in the UK are defending Starmer on this point, saying that, it's childish, he can't call a general election, or all this sort of thing. Like places like the Spectator and the Guardian that are like defending Starmer on this point, doesn't matter. Everyone thinks they're fucking fake news already. They're going the way of bloody CNN and MSNBC in fucking America. Everybody sees that they're bullshit. The age of the propaganda is over. The internet fucking killed it. And what's better? We know what we should be aiming for in all of this. It's not going to end up like a revolution in Russia, let's say, where we replace one horrible dictator with another because the situation is so bad. No, we already know what works. We're going to follow the blueprint of America. We're going to go for the Bill of Rights, free speech, gun rights, the whole deal. What actually works, what's shown to be worse, what built the Free West. Like, that's what we're going to be going for. We're not going to be going for some stupid fucking dictatorship that's going to seesaw and just more and more dictatory either way. We already know what works, and I'm pretty sure that's the direction we're headed, and it's good. The Trump win in the most powerful nation that's ever been America, that kind of singled out the direction that the world is going to go. That they couldn't leverage their power into a win in America, and now the sensible people are in charge in America. That just spells doom for all the shitty little nations that suckle on America like leeches. So, buckle up. It's going to get interesting.
Don't hesitate. Okay.
Seen them yet? All clear here. Eyes on them! By the counter! Lock them off!
Killed one.
What do we got? Anything? Fucking anyone got anything?
Right over there! Get them out! She's falling.
Someone go over there! Keep it up!
Okay.
Anybody see them? Anywhere? Come on, guys. Where'd they go?